It's unsettling, isn't it? How easy it is for some to deflect, to turn the blame elsewhere, to shift the spotlight away from their own flaws by casting someone else in the role of the villain. For them, it was effortless to create a tale where they were the innocent victim and you, the antagonist. They crafted a narrative that shielded them, allowing them to project their insecurities onto you rather than facing the cracks in their own reflection. Believing that pointing fingers could keep their own imperfections hidden, they thought they'd never need to confront the uncomfortable truths about themselves. Now, however, the blame they so carefully placed on you is beginning to turn back, curling around them like smoke from a smoldering fire. Each accusation, every twisted story, every whispered lie they told to paint you in the wrong has come back to haunt them. They tried burying their own flaws beneath layers of accusations, but such things don't stay buried forever. They rise like ghosts, creeping into their silent moments and casting long shadows over their conscience. In the quiet, with no one left to blame, they're beginning to realize that maybe it was their own actions, their own pride, that created these walls between you both. They were so quick to dissect your perceived flaws, yet they never turned that same scrutiny inward. They wanted others to believe you were the root of all problems, that you were the one who caused everything to fall apart. But masks are thin, and now they sit with a raw truth that perhaps they were the ones responsible. They tried to lock away the truth, to silence the parts of themselves they couldn't accept, but those secrets are louder than ever. As the dust settles, those things they tried to hide are now screaming for acknowledgement. They convinced themselves they were righteous, blameless, that their hands were clean. But in the silence, the lies unravel. They're haunted by the bitter taste of words they can't take back, of stories twisted, of blame they cast like a shield. It's easy to label someone else as the villain to avoid looking inward, but blame is a fragile defense. Eventually it crumbles, and they're left vulnerable, exposed to the truth they ran from. Now the guilt has become inescapable. Every word they used to tear you down, every justification they crafted to avoid their own faults, echoes relentlessly in their mind. They wanted everyone to see you as the cause of all their troubles, to convince the world that they were innocent. But you can't rewrite reality, no matter how much you try. The truth rises above the lies, illuminating the cracks in the story they tried to weave. Now they're left with regret, haunted by the realization that perhaps it was their own ego, their own pride, that destroyed something real. They thought they could sidestep accountability by casting you as the problem, that if they convinced themselves you were at fault, they wouldn't need to face their own shortcomings. But now, they're trapped in a prison of their own making, haunted by the truths they tried to bury. They sought control over the narrative, but never had control over the truth. In blaming you, they missed the chance to reflect, to grow. Now, they sit alone with the knowledge that they destroyed something precious to protect their pride. Every word they once used to veil themselves in innocence now haunts them, replaying in their minds, reminding them of the painful realities they tried to ignore. Their guilt is a constant presence, an invisible weight that only grows with time. It follows them in silence, filling the quiet hours with relentless whispers of the truths they tried so desperately to avoid. They tried to escape unscathed, free of guilt, but now they bear more of it than they ever imagined. And in the end, they're left with the irony of it all. By blaming you, they've trapped themselves in the very cage they tried to create for someone else. Now, as they sit engulfed in silence, the gravity of their own deception settles over them like a storm. They tried so hard to distort the truth, to spin tales that others would believe. But truth has a way of creeping in, unstoppable, cutting through even the most intricately woven lies. They realize now that they've been caught not by you nor by anyone else, but by their own conscience. Each accusation they crafted, each story that painted you as the source of all wrongs, now feels like an anchor pulling them into a deeper abyss of regret. With no one left to redirect blame, they're forced to confront the parts of themselves they've long ignored. The facade they hid behind is crumbling piece by piece, exposing a reality they can no longer deny. They've always known, deep down, that their actions were self-serving, rooted in insecurity and fear. They convinced themselves that playing the victim would grant them freedom, that by painting you as the villain, they could sidestep any responsibility. But instead of freedom, they've bound themselves to a relentless cycle of guilt. This weight, this regret is unshakable. Every time they try to find solace, the echoes of their words reverberate in their mind, a constant reminder of the innocence they betrayed. They're haunted by the faces of those they convinced, by the people who believed their version of events. Those faces are reminders of the trust they manipulated, of the lies they told, and of the truth they so desperately tried to bury. Now that truth is no longer a whisper in the dark, it's a roar, loud and unyielding, forcing them to confront the things they'd rather keep hidden. They can try to distract themselves, to fill their life with noise, but in every quiet moment, the guilt remains. It seeps into their thoughts, a shadow that follows them everywhere. It's not just the regret of lost connections, it's the shame of realizing they've become the very thing they feared most. Their pride, their inability to face themselves honestly, has left them trapped. They're left to question, was it worth it? Was the temporary satisfaction of casting blame worth this endless, gnawing feeling of loss? In the silence, they can almost feel your presence, like a reminder of what could have been if only they had chosen honesty. The walls they built, the armor of lies they wore, now feel like a cage. They're isolated, burdened by the weight of their own actions, unable to escape the truth that they were never the victim, they were the architect of their own downfall. Every time they close their eyes, they replay the choices they made, the words they used to distance themselves from accountability. Each memory is sharper, more vivid, reminding them of the crossroads where they chose pride over peace. They wanted to rewrite the past, to erase their flaws by painting you as the problem. But now the real story is written in their mind, unchangeable. It's there every night, every moment of quiet, waiting for them, a relentless reminder that no amount of blame can erase the truth. And as the weight grows heavier, they come to understand the final irony. By protecting their ego, they've lost themselves. What they sought was absolution, freedom from guilt, but they find only emptiness, a hollowness that nothing can fill. They're left alone with the truth they tried to deny, with the awareness that they could have been different, that they could have chosen self-reflection, vulnerability, growth. But that path is lost to them now, and all that remains is the haunting knowledge that, in blaming you, they've become prisoners of their own making.